Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Rich Clark, Guide to the Right Path. So, for fears and phobias, I'm going to talk about this fear, is the fear of being alone. Now, the fear of being alone affects many people, and this is called monophobia. It's the extreme or abnormal fear of being alone. And many people, as well as animals, are known to suffer from monophobia, and it's not an easy fear to overcome. So, monophobia is known by other names such as Isolophobia, Eremophobia, or the related phobia, Autophobia. And it's categorized by extreme insecurity, anxiety, and depression when the individual sufferer has to be alone, and even this for a short duration. Now, anxiety is the number one issue as therapists we deal with, then depression, then trauma, then relationship issues, and then loneliness. So, as you can imagine, anxiety and depression, and loneliness, very circular. So as a result, people refuse to sleep, eat, or even go to the bathroom alone. People suffering from monophobia are unable to even do many simple tasks, and that most could do easily. And the fear of being alone also leads to bad relationships, as the individual prefers abuse than to be left alone. And so it is something I come up with clients. People have been abused in relationships, or they're in bad families where they feel that being in the family is okay because they don't want to leave the family or whatever that is. And it's very complicated. It's not straightforward, as you can imagine. So what's the symptoms of monophobia? Well, as with all types of phobias, the fears of being alone also trigger several physical and emotional symptoms. So the physical ones is feeling unsteady, experience lightheadedness or dizziness, feeling of choking, the rapid heart rate, palpitations or pounding heart, sweating, chest pain and discomfort, nausea or gastronomical distress, trembling or shaking, numbness or tingling sensations. And the other symptoms is unable to distinguish between reality and unreality, which is called delusion. The fear of dying is also very light, which is called phantophobia. And then the fear of losing control, hot and cold flushes, and the fear of fainting, which is also linked to the fear of blood as well. So very similar. So monophobia is often combined with many phobias. So for example, many people who suffer from agoraphobia, fear of open public places, or phantophobia, fear of death, may also suffer from monophobia. So I would guarantee if someone's got fear of being alone, it would be probably 3 sessions, because you've got to deal with the fear of alone, and then it's probably be the fear of agoraphobia, it's fear of open or public places, or the fear of too many people or not being liked and so forth. There's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of issues with that. So the causes of monophobia, the fear of being alone, can occur to very many reasons. And as with most types of phobia, the origins of the monophobia can often be traced to the individual's childhood, wherein one might have had a frightening experience. And this frightening experience is the long-term stress, the anxiety, the bad relationships they've experienced or had or seen. Their poor housing or other social economic factors can also lead to monophobia. In fact, some people, you'd be surprised, who are very successful come from very bad economic backgrounds. And actually the idea of them being alone, that's why they will pay out for everybody, their friends, to be around them, and they have their family and everything. But actually they're so afraid of being alone. And if they get to the point they're actually alone, which is sometimes they get divorced because they're so extreme, that then they struggle with it. And I've had people who were successful, end up in divorces, can't cope being on their own. And it's quite surprising, because when you meet them, you wouldn't have thought that. And it just shows you the charade people present to people. This is how it works. So when we have all these issues, it's now been established that most anxieties and phobias occur in people who have less well-developed strategies for coping with difficult situations in life. So children raised by anxious relatives, parents, are also more likely to suffer from these common kinds of phobias. They inherit the anxiety, which makes them react negatively to stressful situations and events. And it's something you have to be wary of. So if you notice that a parent is always stressed about something, you have to learn to navigate off it. And it's very difficult to do because you're getting conditioned. And so you have to be very wary of that all the time. And I can tell you this from experience, because I have a parent, my mother, who's in actual panic. She panics about everything. And as she's getting older, she's worse. And I can separate from that. as a child, I couldn't. I used to find that really difficult. I used to find it, and I was so empathic, I'd find it really difficult to not absorb it. And now, as an adult, I'm fine. I think also because I've done a lot of stuff on my own, but I was also taught to be self independent as well from my parents. So it's kind of a weird, dichotomy. But you have to also learn, as a person suffering from the true fear of being alone, it's also like to lack confidence and believe in the fact that activities can be carried out in fact, and believe in the fact that activities can be carried out alone. They don't believe it can. They feel that having a trustworthy person along at all times is essential, and the failure to do so could lead to them catastrophe, even death, acting out of control when panic-causing situations arise. So, what's the treatment for the fear of being alone? Well, many individuals suffering with monophobia develop coping strategies and these self-help techniques to help themselves. Now, as myself, because I'm a therapist, I alternatively one can seek treatment from a psychiatrist or psychologist who can recommend therapies such as talk therapy, which is talking, cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, and this is known to cure nearly 75% of people suffering from different phobias because it goes into the subconscious. And hypnotherapy, which CBT is from, is also effective for treating many kinds of phobias. They do recommend medications, but they generally do not cure one's fear of being alone. However, they have a short-term drug therapy which is known to be effective for dealing with symptoms. So you hear of people going on beta blockers, anti-anxiety, antidepressant medications can be taken under the guidance of a doctor for dealing with stress and panic caused by one's monophobia. But it's important to notice and note that many of these withdrawal symptoms one might experience when weaning off these drugs, and the process has to be done gradually and under medical supervision. One of the things I also teach people yes, I've done the hypnotherapy, but also teach them relaxation and breathing techniques and the most natural forms of treatment recommended for dealing with the extreme fear of being alone. So these are from the Indian ideas of guided meditation, guided mental imagery, pranayama, which is breathing exercises, and then learning about muscle relaxation and soothing self-talk are some of the self-effective ways of coping with monophobia. And for the extreme people, if you do meet them, is desensitization and gradual exposure therapy also helps the individual slowly experience the fear of being alone, first in the form of images and visualization, and then in reality. And this can help them get desensitized to they are no longer react with uncontrollable panic when faced with being alone. So if you have an issue of being alone or fear of being alone, please contact me on www.richclark.net. And through that, you can book a free discovery call. And through that free discovery call, it's for 30 minutes, you can work out what your issues are, and you can make the decision whether I want to work with you or you want to work with myself. And then we would come up with a relative program. Sometimes, if it's just one issue, it can be a mini session, which is I'm doing very cheap at the moment. It's 40 minutes for £50, very cheap. Otherwise, we're going to programs, which I believe for someone who's got fear of being alone, I would say it is probably a few issues. So I'd say 3 is the minimum. And I think within that, you can deal with a lot of issues people have. If the fear of being alone also leads to other issues, then you can go into multiple sessions. And the idea is the more you do multiple sessions, things become cheaper. So anyway, I hope that helps. Do not fear of being alone and know there is help out there. And also from experience, I'm an only child, so I understand about being alone. I can also understand about the fear of being alone, and I have experience in this and understanding it and coping with it and my own coping mechanisms with that. So it's not difficult for me to help you with this. So until next time, I shall speak to you soon.